Hello everyone and welcome to episode 86 of Competitive Magic with the Karnies. I'm your host from Italy, Andrea Mengucci, and joining me as always we have Javier Dominguez from Spain.
Hello everyone.
And Anthony Lee from Australia.
Hola.
Hello Karnies, nice to hear you again after a tiny August vacation break. Did you go anywhere cool? Did you visit some summer vacation, or I guess in Anthony's case, winter vacation?
Oh, wow. I just realized it's actually winter for Anthony. Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know. In my head, when you're playing your CQs or whatever, it was summer. But now, Mango just opened my eyes, and now I'm realizing like this is completely hot here, but it's actually cold there, or whatever it is.
Well,
whoa. I'm sorry.
Not really. I mean, it's cold for us. I mean, it's cold by Australian standards, which is still. I mean, our winters are not that cold, so it's not. It's probably not what you're picturing in your head.
Well, like a hoodie or something. Hoodie level of cold.
Yeah, it's like
picture.
Chill. It's not.
Yeah, but here it's like I don't want to go out in daylight because I'm gonna melt level of hot. So, thank you, Mango, for enlightening me like this.
I would say you moved to one of the hottest city though, so that's on that.
I mean, I often go for a walk or run on daytime, but I'm saying like people say that I personally don't. I think I take the hot weathers like pretty well. I can also go for a walk in Vegas, so it's not. Yeah, my skin takes it well, I guess. Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, so you guys went to places or did something?
I was. I went.
You didn't.
I was in Sydney last weekend, so you asked about cool places. So my answer to that was no. But my answer to Javier's question was, did I go anywhere? Yes, but I was in Sydney. So that was that. That was kind of. It was nice. Yeah.
I have a question, Anthony.
Right.
Anthony, do you run into people that complain about you not liking sitting in the podcast? That has this happened at least once?
Not really. Everyone just knows that it's a very normal and reasonable opinion to have. So I haven't really had anybody object to it. It's just I don't know. It's just facts. It's like
not even one person.
There are people who are flat earthers out there, right? What's that?
There's not like one person that loves Sydney and it's like, Anthony, you're clueless. You should love Sydney or something. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious.
No, I mean it's like I was saying. There's people who think that the Earth is flat, and similarly, there are probably people who think Sydney is great, but there's just not that many of those people, so it's not easy to run into. Okay. Maybe those people. Maybe they have a very loud voice, but there's very few of them. Very, very few of them. They barely exist.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on. Okay. So yeah, the goal of today's podcast will be to talk about Modern, Pioneer, and then Standard. There has been some, cool events going on, and of course, we're all waiting for the ban list announcement happening next Monday, which will make hopefully more justice to Modern, taking out that bird. Speaking of which, this weekend there will be an RCQ, and that will be my last time to play my 15 euros Shuko.
Nice price.
So that my money of those cards finally will be worth it if I win. If I don't win, no money.
Well, David, don't worry about it, because I mean it won't be the last. I mean it'll be the last time that you get to play Shukos in Modern, but you can still play Shuko in Legacy, there is a playable Legacy deck that has Shuko in it, so it's not all bad.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you know this, but Nadu actually won a tournament last weekend, but was playing 0 Shuko, was playing only 4 Nomads and Core. So I guess that's the better Shuko in Legacy.
Oh.
Yeah, that's pretty sad for Shuko.
Yeah, poor Shuko. But anyway, Anthony, you told me that you played an RCQ one of these weekends. How did it go?
Oh right, yeah, the weekend before we were on break, but yeah, that was fun. I played Jeskai Control. I split the final because I didn't need the invite. And yeah, it was a good time. I don't usually love playing decks like Jeskai Control. Javier knows that too. Like we don't inherently love these decks.
Nope.
But the game, yeah, but the games were really good that day. They were all really close. Like it really came down to the wire a lot. I can't count how many times I had to go down to one life with a copy of the One Ring in play, which is always, I don't know. That's the most exciting part about playing with the One Ring. I think those games where you're desperately trying to not get yourself with it. And yeah, I really enjoyed the gameplay. And actually, something that I've noticed about Modern since Modern Horizons 3, if you take out the elephant in the room, or bird in the room, as it were, I actually kind of enjoy like most of the games in the decks. Like all the good decks are pretty interactive and pretty fun, right? Like the decks like Boros Energy and the variants and Jeskai Control and the Necro deck, I quite enjoy them actually. They're very different to what I usually like in Standard and Pioneer, but I like that. And I don't know. This I think the Modern Horizons 3 iteration of Modern, barring Nadu, is something that I quite like more than than many past Modern formats. So yeah, I don't know. Kind of like it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
agreed. Definitely, it's always a blast to stream modern for me, and checking up the modern showcase challenge is definitely gonna be showing you some very cool decks that are gonna be, of course, even better once you take out the best deck next week. Again, we're just all hoping that that happens. It's not 100%, but let's say 99.9.
Well, I
Did you
mean,
play one?
go ahead.
Go on.
No,
Oh,
so
I
like it
thought.
could be funny if the metagame relates because no one want to play Navi because it's gonna get banned, and then they're like, the metagame is balanced because Navi is not that much played and doesn't have much win rate or whatever. That would be kind of ironic. I don't think it's happening though. But also, do you guys think it's all gonna be Navi, right? You don't think anything else has to go? I assume.
Yeah, yeah,
What
it
else
doesn't
would?
make sense for anything else to be banned in modern.
There's nothing else, right?
Well, I think
Right.
I'm just thinking. I was wondering. I think everything
Oh,
else is good.
yeah. I would be really shocked if there was anything else that really throw me. Um, yeah. Didn't you play something that weekend as well, Mango? Am I misremembering?
Yeah, I played a store tournament. I played a store tournament. 24 people. I went there with a friend of mine, which is actually a fun story that I posted on Twitter about it. This friend of mine only plays Magic Arena here and there, never played Modern before. I lent him Boros Energy with a Cyber Guide. We did some practice game. He learned all the mechanics. He was remembering all the triggers and everything. But he made the classic modern player mistake, rookie modern player mistake of sideboarding in surgical extraction against decks that you shouldn't. And in
Huh.
particular, did that against Burn, which is definitely
Oh,
always a thing that whenever happens on stream to me, I'm always so upset with my opponent whenever they surgical my card. But yeah,
that's okay.
so if you're listening to this, don't side in surgical against decks that don't play Gore's Vengeance, Flash, or I don't know, a Sparring Spike combo deck.
I have a better one. Do not lend decks with reconstruction to people that do not know the formats. It's for their own good.
Oh, it's a good
Yeah, but
workaround.
yeah, maybe it was better to just play unlicensed turrets in Boros sideboard instead of surgical.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
unless
I
you just
think
have
that
at least have
rule
a hers do something.
that rule might be a bit too strong because I mean sometimes the thing is not. I mean I would push back a little bit, and I think sometimes it's correct, but the thing is that when it's correct by a little bit, and it's not correct very often. Maybe definitely less than 10% of the time, and when it's wrong, it's like very wrong, right? So when we say don't do it, we mean it's nearly always wrong, and it's usually not worth the risk unless you really know. And I think that's very common in Magic. So I don't know. I just thought about that, and I don't know because I think we've fought it in Surgical in some fair matchups before. And for example, you mentioned the not bringing it unless your opponent is flayed, which implies that you do want it if your opponent is flayed, which I'm not sure is the case. And I don't know. I think Surgical's a very interesting card anyway. So I don't know. You just had me thinking. It's all good.
Yeah. And I played Nadu. I went undefeated in Swiss, lost in the top eight. Was actually like the classic loss where you lose, but you are one card away both times. And for example, in game one, I surveilled a Court of Calling in the graveyard, and then I died, like, let's say, 7 turns later without a threat. Like I was just missing a threat to win. So that Court of Calling, if only I didn't survey to the graveyard. And I guess Magic is just full like that, and it's always fun to, look back at a game that you lost, and you always had control over it. Almost, not
Well,
always, but almost always.
was it right to put it in the? I mean, just because you drew poorly after it doesn't mean that it was wrong, right? Do you think it was right or wrong to surveil it to the
Well,
graveyard?
I think it was a very close call. I thought about it for a while, and then I decided, well, I'm not gonna cast this Court in the next, 2 or 3 turns, so I surveilled to the graveyard. But then,
Seems reasonable.
drew in a way where I needed more threats against a deck full of answers. But yeah, anyway,
Well, but
I have
point is,
another
it
shot.
doesn't mean you're wrong. Like maybe.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it doesn't mean I'm wrong, but it also means that I had a line to win the game, which is
Well, but that's extremely dangerous and unproductive because if you take it that line, maybe you win this game, but you lose more games you will have won otherwise.
no, I know. I'm just saying I could have won it, but
Okay.
I lost.
I'm just making sure we don't send the wrong message.
Yeah, we're sticklers here.
Anyway, let's start the overview of these Magical Ink tournament, which saw a lot of players here, 233. And
Well, I was one of them actually. I did play this showcase challenge. Yeah, I did.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Can I Google your? Can I search your name?
Yeah, you do. You will not find it, I think.
No.
I played 2 matches of Magic the Gathering for a total of 4 games, I think. I went for the classic, so it's 0 to drop. I played Jeskai Control, and I played.
They don't show all the names anymore.
They show the 32.
Okay. Oh wow, I didn't know that.
I played Jeskai Control because it's the one I think I will play the best. I was considering playing Nadu, but I think it's too annoying to play. I was like, I'm not gonna spend this summer day playing a deck that's making me click for 25 minutes. Just clicking to kill people on time, being stressed by clicking. I just don't want to. Like if this was paper, I would have played Nadu, but I just didn't. If this, I would have played Nadu if this was like the showcase finals. You know what I mean? The 32 player tournament or whatever, or like. But for this challenge, it was like just this guy, and I played against Eldrazi, whatever it's called, like the actual 1-on-1. And then I played against
Breach?
Eldrazi Breach, and then against Eldrazi Stompy-ish. I'm pretty sure of the 4 games, 3 of them had my opponent with turn 3 kicked the Mikasin Sowing whatever thing. So
oh wow,
it was not very fun and not very interactive and not very whatever games. So I didn't get to make many. It was fast. It was couldn't do anything and just died to Modern, and that's it.
Speaking of Soul Miko Spawn, it is the deck that won the whole tournament, Red Green Breach. This is a deck that utilizes the new MH3 Eldrazi package of Yugin's Labyrinth, Devourer of Destiny, Soul Miko Spawn, Kozilek's Command, and uses this new card, Ulamog the Defiler, which I thought was just a worse Emrakul. But today I played a league with this deck, and I tell you, it was better than Emrakul every time. I cast this card 3 times, which obviously, much easier to cast than Emrakul because it costs 5 less. And even to put into play with Through the Breach, I had the decision between the Ulamog Defiler and Emrakul a couple of times, and always chose Ulamog. So I just wonder if you should play more Ulamog the Defiler than Emrakul.
Well, I don't think so, because this deck is actually quite good at casting Emrakul. Like this would be true if it was not for Kozilek's Command. But Kozilek's Command specifically does make it so Emrakul is actually way more castable. Because you need to have 8 mana or something to cast Emrakul next turn. And once you do cast an Emrakul, it's actually way better than Ulamog. Like it's not really close. And it takes a bit less of a setup as a breach target anyway. So I think, there's a wall where we play 3-3, I guess, but I'm pretty sure it is actually not better. Just based on how much, if you're playing a mirror match or whatever, just casting Emrakul is just always much stronger if you have 15 mana. But then again, I guess against a heavy cannon Magic deck, maybe Ulamog is a bit better. I am not that sure, but I would be inclined to think Emrakul is a bit better. I don't know.
Yeah, and it was very impressive for me. I think this deck is definitely one of the front runner of post Nadu Modern, and just not too much else to say other than maybe this is better than Tron. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's better than Tron. It's definitely better than Tron because it does a similar thing, but a bit stronger. But also, like, I don't like the sewing Miko's pump card. Like, it's just a good card that destroys lands fast. I don't know. I just don't like it. Like, it's very like I don't like this kind of cards because they are either bad or they are actually putting people
Oh,
back
you
to Stone
mean
Age.
don't like it as in it's not fun?
Like I don't think the existence of this card is any fun for anyone because either it's
Oh yeah.
bad and it sucks or it's good and you're making people not play because you're destroying their lands in the draw or whatever. Like why? Like I don't know. Yeah, I don't think. And this
Very
this
good with
yeah
very good with Cavern of
yeah.
Souls.
So I'm gonna destroy your
because
lands
you just
and then,
get Cavern of
yeah,
Souls,
exactly.
and then you just start casting Warbreaker and Devourer of
Yeah,
Destiny.
so I still kill more
It's,
lands without my opponent being able to interact or whatever, So it's just I don't get it, but I mean they printed Nado, so it's not the worst design of M3, I guess. But definitely for me the second worst design. I just don't like it. I just like cards that destroy lands that are good are dangerous, and this one is actually very good, as you can see here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, so the next two decks are two Nadus, and then in the fourth place we have Storm, which had a big comeback. Like there has been a lot of Storm in the MTGO events these weeks. Classic, just like it does super poorly at the PT. People forget it exists, don't play. I mean, for example, a lot of Nadu sideboard don't even play the Dranith Magistrate and Soul. What's the other one? The 0/4 Soulless Jailer anymore, and just
well, this one does.
Storm.
This one does, but yeah, it's
yeah,
because Storm. I mean, Storm had a very strong weekend the week after. I think they had a challenge with 4 in top it or something. Like it did, and every challenge had a Storm in the top it, so it definitely came back. But I think that this was not very unpredictable, honestly, from my perspective. Like as Mango said, look, this is the classic deck doing bad in the PD and then doing well, but specifically Storm, like it's actually quite powerful. I don't know what Anthony thinks of this as well, but like, don't you guys think the deck is like very powerful by itself? Like, if you don't count,
Yeah, we agreed on this. I
the
think
hate
that
there.
we felt that Storm had the highest raw power level of any non-Nadu deck before the PT. Like we were very much in agreement on that. I think that Storm was the most abstractly powerful deck, but then we were afraid of hate, right? But if you take away that hate part of the equation, then I don't know. I think it's not very contentious. Like deck just seems so much more powerful than other decks. Like it's good against like normal interaction. Like it's bad against hate, but like if you're just trying to beat it with regular counter spells or something, this deck can be surprisingly quite solid. And it's not easy to attack by a lot of normals. Like some decks just can't really do anything about it. It has the fastest goldfish. Like yeah, it's a strong deck. The strongest, I would say.
I also think something that happened, like it's sort of underrated. I think how good players actually adapt well against non-interactive decks. Like you can think, well, but a Storm, when you're playing a Storm, it doesn't matter whether you're playing against an RCQ medium player or the best players in the world, because the deck does not interact. But that's actually, I think, sort of misunderstood. Like to start with, if you're playing with open deck lists, a deck like Storm is much worse because your opponent can and will, in the case in the PT, mulligan a lot properly, and that's already a big hit on a deck like Living End as well, where Living End keeps consistently underperforming in PTs compared to other tournaments for that reason, I think. And not only that mulligan aspect, but also like the whole like how they play their games or whatever. Sometimes you have to prioritize the sideboarding in a way where it's not very obvious. I think the open deck list is the biggest one though, but like I think it's still like easy to underrate how a deck like this gets worse once your opponent's plan is actually good against your deck. Because in the PT, everyone had a decent plan against the Storm, even though they had hate, but they didn't need to have like that much hate as long as the plan were good. If plans are good, they work, right? And I think it does make sense that once you lower the field and you take away open deck lists, an interactive deck like a Storm should be better. So that's why I think it's kind of expected for it to be like a decent, like player in the metagame, and I think it's gonna keep being like that. Like obviously they're not gonna be Nadu, but even if they didn't ban Nadu, whatever, Storm will still be like one of the best combo decks there other than Nadu, because it takes a lot of setup for it to be bad. Like the power level is just too good. This has turn 2 kills, a lot of turn 3 kills to removal or whatever. So I think Storm
Yeah, it
is
wasn't
there to stay.
just wasn't that far behind. Like,
Okay, let's go. Let's move on. In number 5, we have one of the variants of the energy deck. In this case, is uh, splashing black. So it's Boros splashing black. So I should say Mardu, I guess, because we have even Thoughtseize here in the black cards department, as well as Obnix's the adversary, one main deck, 0 sideboard, and Chetonia Nightmare, which has been very strong every time I have played against this deck. From the Mardu side, whenever they started doing the Orcish Bowmaster, Chetonia Nightmare, just basically just bring the whole graveyard into play in one turn. It's very, very good. And yeah, so people are also playing one copy of Goblin Bombardment, which sometimes you see this combined with Marionette Apprentice, but in this deck, they don't play any Marionette Apprentice, just Boros with a very, very light splash of black. I guess Fatal Push as well.
I mean, it plays almost as many black cards as red cards, doesn't it? Like it plays push and
It
thoughts.
does.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
it does. I'm sorry. At first, I thought it was just Chitoon Nightmare, but then a lot more black cards kept
Yeah, but why?
appearing.
I want to have a question, man. Why? Like, I understand the Nightmare is very good. Shouldn't it be like 2 off or 3 off, maybe? Like, why does this deck only play one copy? I understand multiples didn't
Uh
do anything, but it looks good.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, this is the classic situation where you just play one because, as you said, the second one is bad, but the one is so good, so good. It's like similar to Goblin Bombardment, I would say. It's a card you only want to draw one copies, and if you don't draw it, your deck still functions regardless, so you just don't mind if you don't draw it, maybe.
Okay,
well,
could be.
it just competes in a similar space to both Bombardment and Obnix. I don't really get the Obnix list, but like I think like they all exist in a similar space, so I understand why they would split them, and it's also awkward to play. Like, yeah, there's a very big cap on how many of this kind of card you can play, right? Because they don't actually have that many creatures, because Flage is not, you know, fully a creature for the purposes of some of these cards. Like, you're not gonna want to play it the same way that the other cards do. So you don't actually have that many creatures, and then you also still have to fit in interaction, and then you have cards that are very much contingent on you having creatures in play, and then I think it's very easy to get non-functional draws then, right? Like, you draw like a push, a discharge, one of those cards, and a creature and some lands, and as your opening hand, and it's like you're actually not very far from actually just not doing anything, right? Like, and
There
that's
you go,
not.
Guy of Souls, go. Yeah, maybe that's too many
Yeah,
flages, I guess. I see this deck, and I think 4 flages has to be like maybe too many.
yeah, I
Because
think
flage
so.
is not a very functional card in the starting hand anyway.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty consistent. Again, a lot of these Boros lists I don't particularly like the construction of, but a lot of that is to do with Flage, I think. Because I think Flage, I think Flage is like the reason Jeskai Control can exist, and it sort of, this isn't inherently true, but if a card is the reason that a control deck can exist, it is a little bit weird that it's also good in a deck like this, right? Like, I don't think the card is just inherently super powerful like that. I think you do have to build around Flage, and I don't think pairing it with creatures is usually going to make a lot of sense. I like that these decks have pressure and like Thoughtseize. I think that makes sense to me. But I don't think you have enough interaction to make a card like Flage good. And I feel like I would like it if these decks would apply a little bit more pressure as well, right? Like, Guide of Souls kills people really fast, and Raptor can kill pretty fast, but a lot of these other cards are more grindy, and I don't know. That doesn't really feel
Like,
like what Modern's about.
I, I feel I'm a big fan of 4 Flages in this deck. Flages has a lot of different angles. For example, this deck doesn't play Lightning Bolt, and I think just like the ability of just having so many uh, direct burn matters. You also have Pride, which wants you to gain life, and sometimes you actually just don't want to attack. You don't have Guide of Souls, so the also Pride just chills in play, and you actually need some life gain. Or sometimes you just surveil the Flash to the graveyard, and it's just the best card in the world. So I feel like it's just an exceptional card. Have you mentioned better than Uro before? So I'm a big fan of playing 4.
One thing I want to point out here is that playing Lightning Bolt makes Flage better, and not playing Lightning Bolt makes Flage worse. So this is actually because like Bolt and Flage targeting player only matters when they have enough to actually win the game. Every other time the value is 0, right? So there's less combinations of that mode being relevant if they are not together. But yeah, if there could be, all players are building these decks like 4 Flages, but I'm just saying, like, on a surface level, I'm skeptical of the 4 copies just because like how bad it is to draw 2 mostly. But I understand like Fletch is not as good here as it is in Jeskai, but it doesn't mean that I cannot be better, because if the rest of the things are doing their thing, then Fletch is not going to be like line and rod for removal, but it's going to be the other way around. The creatures do work as line and rod, and then Fletch can actually close the job. So maybe it's good, but definitely like opening removal into 2 Fletches in my hand is like something I do not look forward to open, but it's tricky. I mean, I will have to play more, but
Yeah,
we're going to see a lot of this deck in the future, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's less a
Yeah.
statement about the overall power level of the deck or even of Flage in general, but more about how the cards fit together. But yes, I would expect to see a ton of this after the ban, right? It's a very popular deck. It's good, and people really enjoy playing decks like this, I think. So, which is definitely a factor. So we'll probably talk a lot about this kind of deck very soon, right? Like we're going to be talking a lot about what we'll do after the ban, probably next week, right? So
Yeah, for sure. The whole like Boros versus Mardu, Boros for Blood Moon, Mardu for, the black cards is definitely being a big talk these days, and it will be even more in the next weeks for sure.
Yeah, the orc killing the Ocelot Pride is going to be big, I assume.
But also, Blood Moon killing your ability to cast most of your spells.
Well,
But,
I don't think this deck is going to be playing this mana base for much longer, right? Like it plays as black as it does play red. It plays a mountain. It doesn't play swamp. Let's say I think there's work to be done here in terms of the mana base and the overall structure of that aspect of the deck, I will say.
Okay, let's go next to the next deck, which is a crazy one made by Aspiring Spike in the top 8 with these, just like I played this on Monday. There's like this fantastic combo deck which can win the game as early as turn 3 in a pretty clean way of just casting turn 2 Malevolent Rumble and then just turn 3 Shifting Woodland, Copy Omniscience. And then once you have Omniscience into play, you win with one single card, Karniker Creator, because you minus Karn, you go get Ancestral Statue, which bounces itself infinite amount of time, and then you bounce Karniker Creator, you recast it, you get it a Flux Reservoir, you cast it, and with any other spells in your hand, you kill your opponent. So this has, of course, you have to, the curve I mentioned is the lucky one, but you have a lot of ways to fill your graveyard. You have Cash Grab, the new card from Bloom Borrow, which is basically Malevolent Rumble, but instant speed and doesn't make a token. You have Seed of Hope, the common from March of the Machine that mills 2 cards and gains 2 life. And also you have Fable and Season Pyromancer. You of course have the One Ring, and you have even Mana Dork like Utopia Sprawl. Yeah, overall, I've been impressed by this deck. Surgical Extraction is very good against this deck, so there will be even more reasons to play Surgical Extraction in modern deck sideboard these days.
This is a very interesting deck.
Impressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, this is like one of the Aspiring Spike moves I like the most. Yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, there was a very similar deck in Historic.
Yes.
I assume that's where he got the inspiration, maybe?
Because... Yeah, it's from... I remember featuring in one of the decks of the weekend. In the weekend where everyone played Boros in a qualifier, there was a French player who qualified to the arena event with this deck in Historic.
Yeah, but this seems more precise. Like the Karn kill is actually very cool. I mean, I'm impressed.
Yeah. I guess if there was anything, I would have liked it if there was some way to fit interaction in this deck to pair with the cards like Fable and Pyromancer. But like this is really good. I think it's
Seed of Hope and Malevolent do not want interaction.
Your interaction is 4 Iwar Might and a couple of Pithy Needle in the side.
There must be more, but yeah, this seems really promising.
Yeah, this was definitely a very cool deck, and congrats to Spike for always coming up with new ideas, even formats that are like a couple of months old.
And he did well. Like this is a top 8. I don't know.
Yeah, this is 8-2 record for him in the weekend.
Like Karn here is very smart because Karn is a kill condition that actually it's a good card against Nadu, right? Like it's not like it doesn't do anything. If you go turn 3 Karn against a lot of decks, we know what it does, even if it doesn't. Like you can look at the cold liquid metal coating or whatever, and that's enough to beat some. All right, this is good. I assume they're weak to shifting cooldowns again interacted with, like with the against Eldrassis, I guess. Like
Rest in peace,
yeah.
stuff like that.
Well, the rest in peace
Blood
you can
Moon.
deal with Karn. Like Karn can deal with all of those. I assume it's a bit.
Yeah. I was just saying that uh, I lost to Boros, who played Cyborg, Enchantment Hate, like Blood Moon and Rest in Peace. And yeah,
Both. Haha,
that's what
yeah, you
happened.
eat both. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Uh,
So this actually faults against any hate piece, but
I won the other rounds, and it definitely felt strong. It definitely felt like a combo deck with potential. One of the many modern combo decks that can be around.
it seems like a different storm. Like permanent storm.
Exactly. Storm, Amulet. I mean, there's many combo decks in modern.
All right, this looks good. I
Um,
mean, obviously, have no idea how well improve it because but this looks good. Actually, looks reasonably thought.
okay, let's move on. We got a seventh place Nadu, and then an eighth place we got Just Cat Control. Let's see if this list has any differences from your list, guys, from the PT. Yes, it plays. Oh no, never mind. I thought it played. Why does it have Xander Lounge? It doesn't have Lil.
To cast. I assume maybe they just wanted another.
Oh, Prismatic Ending. It plays 2 Prismatic Ending in the main deck. I guess to do with Sun Cleanser, maybe?
I don't think so. It's probably more about like all the permanents than some classes specific, more like a Janis and the such. I would expect. Like if you're gonna deal with
Yeah, I
some
mean,
classes specifically, you can just play Super Imperdict or whatever.
yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like there's a bunch of things obviously that you would not play it specifically for that, but if you need an answer to that, that's also broad. Like, sure. I mean, this is actually a bit more different as well, right? Like they don't have the
Well,
full four forces
it's
to
very
support.
different. They play different
Yeah,
amount of. It's a different deck. Like they play different amount
yeah.
of
I
A's.
think
They don't play
it's
full pitches. They don't play dress down, which I think is a next to much stronger in the deck. They play some custom mage. It's a whole different deck actually. It's just both escape
Oh, wow,
control.
Snap Custom Mage. Oh, one
Like
Snap
this is
Custom.
different. Like this will play differently. Honestly, I will expect.
Okay. Um, we can go a little bit more down if you guys want, but I wanted to talk to you about a Gorio deck, because I think that Esper Gorio will be a very good choice in the meta game, and one that I want to stream tomorrow with is by the modern trophy leader RVNG, who tries a lot of stuff with Gore's Vengeance, and his latest list is playing, maybe inspired by the podcast episode we did a few weeks ago, playing 4 Emperor of Bones and 4 Psychic Frog. So you just enable a reanimation spell that way.
Well, I'm not sure. Like I think Gorios is a decent deck, but I'm not sure Gorios is bad even against Nadu. Like I think Gorios has some issues, but I don't necessarily believe removing Nadu will make Gorios much better in terms of like it's actually decently equipped to interact with Nadu. I think compared to other decks. I'm not sure if that's true, but I do not recall. Like I recall the Gorios deck being just not great against a lot of things, but I don't recall it being that bad against Nadu. Am I wrong, Anthony?
No, that's correct. Like the first thing we did was to put all these decks against Nadu, and Gora's Vengeance was fine there. Like it wasn't like, wow, this deck smashes Nadu, so now we love it. But it definitely was nowhere near bad enough to disqualify. So that meant it was at least solid because that was the first gate, right, for everything. And we eventually, well, honestly, I think a big part of it was just time. We just kind of ran out of time, but a lot of it was about functionality that we couldn't quite figure out in time as opposed to a particular matchup. But just in general, I don't feel like Naru's ban is going to make any specific deck much better, except maybe something like Amulet. Yeah, like I feel like Naru's strength is that it's ahead against most things, but not by an overwhelming amount. And I feel like there are not many decks. There's not a specific deck that you can't play because Naru beats it up, like more than other decks, right? You just don't play other decks because they're not as good as Naru. But I don't think Naru is very targeted in its oppression. So I just feel like
Yeah, maybe
yeah,
a deck that definitely improves with Nadu ban is Boros, as Boros definitely had a bad matchup against Nadu, so that would be better.
sure, but yeah, I think it's not like very extreme. Yeah, I don't think it's as bad as it would seem. But Um, yeah, I think this like I really like this kind of Boris build, right? Where I think I mean before Modern Horizons 3, like the reason that I felt this deck was not very good was that it looked like it was built as though it had like a backup fair play, right? Like it can do the wow, I flashed back a giant, creature on turn 2 and it's very broken. But then I have a backup fair plan. But I felt that backup fair plan never truly materialized. Like you don't actually beat people by ephemerating grief if the rest of your deck doesn't do very much, which was often the case with Glorious. It's like you would draw redundant combo pieces, you would not put any other power into play, and then it's not actually easy to kill people with just grief. They will draw out of it eventually. But the addition of Emperor of Bones and Psychic Frog changes this, I think. Like now the deck actually does have a credible fair plan. Because when you grief scam somebody, you actually have to like put other pressure into play, I think, to win the game. And now you have like lots of ways to do that. And they also double. Like they both play that fair game. And they also uh, help you do your unfair plan. Like I think this version of the Warriors Vengeance I think is very appealing and I could see it being very strong. I mean I think it's good now. And it might be better after the ban too, I have to assume. So yeah, I think the Emperor's a huge addition along with the Frog.
There's another card in this deck that's like from MH3 and that I didn't expect. Ulamog the Defiler. I don't want to know if this is just to try, but I can definitely see this deck. You just go like Grief or Solitude, pitching one of your tracks or Grazer Brand, and then you just reanimate this with Emperor of Bones and just annihilate her. I guess is that
I
what
mean,
happens?
Javier,
Yes.
do you remember?
Yeah.
This is the card that Slack said the line about. Do you remember?
I remember when it's like we're in the house and the Slash comes like, wait, guys, listen to me. Like this Ulama car, it's like it can be very good or it can be very bad. So now that's how we evaluate this
It
card.
was truly in line.
It's so I actually agree though. Like
Yeah.
the fun thing is when I played Gordies, it was like, well, this card is either a 10 or a 0, so I have no idea if it's good or not. Like I still don't know if it's good or
Yeah.
not to play. That's funny.
It was. Yeah, I mean the way that maybe Javier I would have said it is that it's a very polarized card or high variance card, but just the way that it could be really good, but it could be really bad. It was just too good, so we were spamming it a lot afterward.
Well,
But
but
that
cards polarized are actually hard to define. It's
yeah,
actually hard to decide. Like, is this card good enough to be played in the deck? Well, I don't know. I think it
it's
will
very hard
take
because
hours. It will take hours to actually
yeah,
know this.
you often have to reason to it, or just, you either have to reason to it or play like a lot of games. Because like if you just play just a handful of games, like it can very much just be that variance that's making the card look super strong. Like we've seen that many times even recently. So yeah, that's all I can think of when I see all of the Defiler and Gore's videos. So I can only think of Slacks saying that,
Yeah.
and that's been bullying him for it. Great deck though, yeah.
All right. Do we want to move on to the next format? Do we want
Sure.
to talk about Pioneer? All right. So Pioneer Showcase was won by Fair MTG from the Canary Island, actually, and I had a pleasure to team with him in for Ghent, and he, few days before this win, won the draft that qualified him to the Las Vegas Cube. So he's the first person qualified to the Cube draft in Vegas where we get to keep all the cards. So yeah, congrats on like a blazing weekend for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
And
winning two events in the weekend is obviously like impressive. So
Yeah.
yeah,
good job.
Very different ones too.
and yes, and he got there with Yorion, Arstar Cornucopia, Sylvan Carrot, just like good card. I mean, this deck used to be called the Niv Too Light, but now there's like one Niv Mizzet Reborn, and I feel like whenever my opponent gets Niv Mizzet Reborn over Valky, it's always like much worse, and I'm just so much more glad that I don't Niv Mizzet. I don't know about you, but it feels like just a relic of the past, this card in this deck.
Well, you still need one to get it. I mean, we played a bit of this or the PT. I think the other Niv Mizzet is the actual good one, the Supreme.
Yes, exactly.
think
The
we-
Mizzet Supreme has
I
been
actually think
has
we
been very good.
discussed this in the podcast. I could be wrong, but I think we actually talk about this one being the good one and whatever it could do, but I'm not sure. I think we did, yeah. But yeah, I mean, this deck is just the same it was before. It has not changed much. anymore. I mean, there's a bit of like the Spillage the Bog trying to get the Traxa in the late game or whatever. This is the classic deck that gets a bit of an improvement every set, but it's usually like that small that it doesn't change much. The only change that actually matters for this deck is positioning. So I think this is a fairly bad deck that's fairly good against vampires. And
he mentioned
that's recipe for the victory. Like if you play, I mean, this is the kind of deck I would have liked to play. I think because a deck that's bad but not bad enough to be bad, but it's good against the actual good decks. Sign me up.
Yeah, he mentioned he played against 7 vampires throughout the tournament.
Yeah,
out of I don't know, probably 11 rounds, he played against 7 vampires, winning every time. So that is he's that choice.
This is something that I do want to talk about, where a lot of people are talking about the massive representation of vampires in the Pioneer Winners metagame. And I don't know, like, I don't think vampires is actually, like, dominant. I don't even think it's the best deck, right? Like, it's just one of the 3 top decks, and out of those 3, I think it's arguably the inferior of them. But it is overwhelmingly much more popular than the rest, which leads to being able to play decks like this because you're playing it 7 times. But I don't think the deck is broken or anything, and I would definitely want people to be very measured in how they evaluate the format. Like you should definitely consider that Vampires is extremely popular in any events that you play, but I wouldn't skew to an extreme to it necessarily in the same way as I might if I thought the deck was actually just that good. Like playing against 7 of the same deck in one event is just kind of unbelievable. But Vampires is just dizzyingly popular, but I don't think it's broken or like even the best deck really. And there are just certainly good reasons that it's much more popular than the other 2 decks, Phoenix and Amalia. But just pump the brakes a little when we're talking about the massive vampire.
Yeah, we will see a lot of vampires in this showcase, so I guess we can maybe analyze the various differences between them. Second place, there is a vampire, and it's playing a new card from Bloomborough. Cruel Claw Heist, black sorcery, gift a card. Target opponent reveals their hand, and you discard a card, and you exile it. But if you gifted your opponent a card, that means that when you cast this card, you can give your opponent a card, draw a card, and you may cast that card as long as it remains exiled. We talked about this card with Anthony for Standard last episode, and one of the things that Anthony mentioned is late game, you go in top deck war, and you can give your opponent a card, and you can just steal it, basically, from them. Of course, if they draw land, then it was very bad, but I feel like it's a nice upgrade to a discard spell.
Well, this card is good, but more specifically, it is good against the mirror match, which, given this context, is critical, right? Because it is finally the first actual way to punish your opponent for having a Fable of Mirrorbreaker in their hand, which is something that does not happen otherwise. So here it is.
But would you gift this on turn 2?
Yeah. Why not?
So on turn 2, you would give your opponent a card to cast this.
Well, if you take a Fable, you win the game.
Like, yeah, it's like, I don't know, like, the matchup is not really that much about just, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's a huge part of the matchup in general.
All right, Mengu, think of this card this way. So this card is either a 2-mana adult, like 2-mana Thoughtseize that doesn't take life, or sort of a 2-mana Bundle and Click plus Anticipate-ish. Right? Because you either discard a card, or you Vendil and Click a card on their hand, and also add their best card to your hand, which is actually like a very strong, more like a Pillage the Bog, whatever, than Anticipate, actually. So it does get the best card and add it to your hand, while you Vendil and Click a card from their hand anyway. Now think of how much value a Vendil and Click card has, and how good a card like this Tutor will be in Vampires. Think of like people have a splash green in Vampires to play some cards, including this one, right? So this card is perfect for this deck for that reason. Like the split, both modes are good. The Vanilla and Click mode is good, and the discard mode is good. So this card is great here.
Yeah,
you still only play 2 copies.
Well, a card being good in a deck doesn't mean you should play a lot of copies.
I mean, it has like some issues still, like stacking poorly on top of thoughts that you can only play so many types of these tempo negative cards. But yeah, when I'm saying I think it's the matchup is not bad, I mean like I don't think gifting your opponent a card is like a very big deal given what you get out of it, because like some of these cards do work specifically well together. Like if they have Sorin Ripper and you take the Sorin, like it's like they also don't have the Ripper for a while, right? And the reverse, and it kind of works the same way for you as well. Like if you have a Ripper, then and they have a Sorin, but your heist takes their Sorin, then that's worth way more than a card, right?
Yeah, the game's
Like
over. Like,
yeah, because of the way that the cards intersect and go over the top of any other consideration, like uh, board development. I think that yeah, it's not really like how you might imagine the heist to play in like a classic mid range mirror where that kind of card can be a liability because it's not usually like a specific bomb that just wins the game in that way. I think the adding the vampires dynamic to this does make that the case. So the heist makes a lot of sense. I think because of that when it wouldn't normally. Uh,
Right.
Also,
Interesting.
Luna's
Interesting.
been killing it, right? Like she top aided. What was it? It was something like 3 events. She made like 3 finals in a row or something,
Yeah.
and now this as well. Is this the
Yeah.
fourth one?
With Mardu energy
Yeah.
modern.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm. She's doing great.
And yeah, that's
Shout out.
most of them are also playing Reckoner Bankbuster. By the way, the Smuggler's Copter basically is
soft band.
outdated vehicle. Yeah, you have a on third place another Vein Ripper Soaring deck, but it's playing 2 copies of Gifted Etherborn. Hasn't been seen in a while in Pioneer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're
Uh,
very good. I think the haste is
yeah.
better.
What is that good against?
Yeah,
The Etherborn, I mean.
Agro, I don't know. Yeah,
Aggro decks.
What
yeah,
aggro decks?
I don't know. I don't think it's good.
Yeah. It's very
No, I
strange.
mean it's good. It's good that like obviously it's decent against like some situations or boards you're trying to play like aggressively in the mirror matches or whatever. But I think it's worse than the other options. Obviously, it's still a card and it's on par with sorting, so it has some upsides. But
Yeah, this player really likes it. Does 2 more in the sideboard as well.
Yeah. Just thinking about whether there's
Yeah.
something we missed. Like, is it like
yeah, I'm thinking of that too.
it's just really weird. Like, I know the card looks so bad to me, and I can't think of any
Well, it's
deck
good against mono
that is played that
green,
is good against.
right?
I must be missing something.
It's
What's
good
that?
against mono green. It's good against mono green. And if you're trying to
Uh,
go 2 drop into 3 drop, it's better than anything else that's the harvester. And attacking.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, mirrors do sometimes
Probably has to be that.
end being on life totals. Like, I assume what happens here is the card is not as bad as it look in the mirror match, because how the mirror match works often being at like this attacks forever, right? And it can get like 6 or alive, and that's a lot of swing. That's probably in that. It's probably there.
Yeah, or maybe like 3-4 is like particularly good sizing. So like maybe you play it and pump it with Sorin, and
Yeah,
it's
well, 3
particularly
is
good or
good sizing.
something.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're playing 8 over
Hmm.
Kalitas or cards like that, right? So they clearly think
Yeah.
Matip is more of a tempo. Like if you're playing a mirror match, this card is better than Shieldred, for example, because it doesn't get 4 for 1, like out tempoed by push that much. I think that this is where this is going. Like this deck is playing this card for Shieldred, and I think it does make sense for a mirror match. I don't think it's good because I think you lose too much otherwise against all the matchups, but in the mirror specifically, this is better. That thing might be what we're missing.
Must be, I think. Yeah. It's kind of interesting as well that that's kind of like the exact opposite approach to the Cruel Claws heist. And I mean, we think the heist is better, but it's kind of telling that they imply very different things about how these players see the matchups, right?
Correct.
Like literally the
I think,
opposite
yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
that's the opposite thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
It's
agree
cool,
with the other.
actually.
We agree
Yeah.
with Luna. Hmm.
And moving on, we have Blue White Control. I would say with Kahira instead of Yorion. And as we mentioned on our preview podcast episode featuring the Elemental Elk Beza, the Bounding Spring, this card actually is played a lot in both Standard and Pioneer. Definitely a powerful card from Bloomborough. The Family Reinforcement, full powered Family Reinforcement.
No, I mean, definitely, it's good. It's just good enough to see play. Like it's just definitely better than. It's just a better card than Brimath, the Caracal, or all the other options. It looks better, at least to me.
Yes. And then we have some more vampires. This one plays a 1/4 drop. This is the first 4-drop we see in Shieldred. Almost everyone is playing Blot Out main deck, by the way. That's the 3-mana way to exile the Van Ripper without having to sacrifice a creature. That's maybe just a one-off fixed in all these decks now.
I mean, not exactly, but like I don't like it personally, but I understand why it's played. Like you need to punish sometimes the combo from vampires. The issue with this card is like it's so bad against everything else. It's like 3 mana. If you're lucky, you get a Hero's Downfall. Like it's an edict, so sometimes you don't even get to use it as good as like you're playing in Somalia. It's like sometimes bad. It's not a huge fan. Like if you're playing these cards, maybe it's time to jump ship. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well,
Like to elaborate on that, I guess it's that when you feel like you're starting to have to pay a lot of cost to fight the mirror, then it's very easy to get locked into a losing arms race, right? Like either you don't play that and then you're at disadvantage in the mirror, which is so popular in your deck in the first place, or you have to play with this handicap against everything else, which is pretty costly if you don't think your deck is actually the best deck. So if you put when you play these cards in your deck like that are very targeted for the mirror, then you have to be sure that your deck is the best deck by a decent margin, I think. And of course, maybe I don't think that, but I mean, even if I did think so, I would have to be pretty confident in that before I started putting a blot out in my main deck, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I had an important tournament going forward from Pioneer, I would be very inclined to not play Vampire. I think Vampires is the best deck by a bit, right now. But I will definitely think playing other decks is better just because this is happening, right? So if you play any deck that's not Vampires, you are automatically getting equity because this blowout exists and because they play less 4-drops and such. Like I'm pretty sure at this point Vampires is not favored against Phoenix or whatever. Like it's worse against Amala than before. Like, all these things just stuck, more and more. And you're playing at the end of the day the Vampires that's just like obviously fine in the mirror only because everyone's playing the bloodouts as well. But every tournament, you're having less and less equity against your average opponent because they're not doing anything else. They're just doing their thing, and you're playing bloodouts, and that just like makes your deck worse. So, yeah, I see danger in this blowout.
But Javier, what if I paid €200 for my Saurian and Veil Reaper and never played them, and I really want to play them?
Well, in that case, I will definitely play Vampires, but I might probably just not play Blood
Thank you.
I might just not play the Blood Out, just play like something else because Blood Out is like just too bad. But yeah, play the Saurians and Reapers, and show them in the Mango deck pictures in the channel of the Discord of Karnies.
Oh. Of course. The Discord channel is going to be always updated.
It's less offensive than the Teferi that was in your cube for so long. So, all right.
But that's not gone anymore. Anyway, this player, by the way, is MC Cars. This is Miguel.
Right?
Miguel, our teammate.
Yes.
Patron. Yes, indeed. Let's move on. We got more vampires to talk about. Let's move to the next one. We have the Archdruid Charm Lotus Field deck, which every Lotus Field
cards no changes since forever.
Every Lotus Field deck loves to say how badly it's positioned. Lotus Field is basically the Amulet Titan of Modern. They always say how badly is it positioned so that they can, bring it to important tournament and nobody's prepared for it.
That's uncharitable. I don't describe that intention.
I mean, Lotus is not particularly bad against vampires, right? And having vampires having a good cyber against Amalia is probably what makes Lotus sort of playable.
I thought Lotus was bad against Rakdos. Why would you say it's not bad against vampires?
Well, it's not that bad. It's fine-ish. Because it doesn't, specifically, Lotus doesn't care that much about the combo compared to other things.
I remember... Oh, okay, sure. I remember when I was testing for the PT... What was the Pioneer PT? Anyway, I was high on Lotus, and then I tested against Willy Edel, and I didn't win a match in 10 main, 10 side. He just gave me 20-0 or something like that.
Well,
I don't
I'm
remember.
pretty sure you guys didn't have the vampires.
No, we had it was like a Lilian of the Veil and everything possible to make my
Like
life a
Lotus is
nightmare.
bad against Rakdos, but Lotus is fine against vampires. Vampires and Rakdos are different decks. Don't fall into the trap of
Okay.
thinking they behave similar, because they actually behave quite differently across the metagame, I think.
Yeah, that's what we were just
Okay.
talking about. We're trying to distinguish like what would have been true for regular Rakdos doesn't necessarily apply to vampires.
Like they
Just
use
because
word
one
very
has
differently. Like
vitriol with
they use different decks, yeah. And I think
yeah.
like Lotus, like they change, like vampires is actually not that well prepared, and also now vampires sideboard is actually very taxed because they need to have the plan against the big three decks or whatever, so they have less space for like all these amping spheres. We've seen some in the decklist before, but they also like you need pressure and the hate. And the thing is, vampires is actually less efficient at putting pressure because all these combo draws sometimes get discoordinated, and the combo itself isn't that fast. And yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised to see this deck doing, decently.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Number 8. I thought it was vampires, but actually isn't. It's Reckless Sacrifice.
Yeah, I
With
have
a
no
new,
idea what's going on here.
somehow new card, Terrain's Journal. I've never seen this card. 2-mana legendary artifact, tap, sacrifice an artifact, another artifact or creature, draw a card, and then pay 2, discard your hand, transform it. I don't know what's transformed, but I'm assuming it's gonna be
It
good.
casts creatures out of your graveyard. This card's seeing a little standard play, which is I don't know. Maybe I don't know if that spurred this card to be tried here, or if there was something else. But that's interesting. I mean, this card's been out a while, right? But I just hadn't really seen it in Pioneer until now. Although I also suppose I hadn't seen much Black Red Sacrifice for a little while
Yeah,
either.
I don't know why this could be good. Like, I mean, it is not very well equipped to be the Southern Reaper combo to start with. I mean, traditionally, this deck has been good against black red decks, but then
Yeah,
again, as we said, they're not the same, right? And and then this actually, I mean, I don't know. I mean, they have maybe they didn't play against many vampires, or they didn't face like
but
I
it's
don't
also
know.
not great
Honestly.
against Phoenix. Like,
Well, it's good against Somali for sure.
yeah,
So
but
maybe
that's
they.
tough, if you're losing to Vampires and Phoenix. And I
Um,
mean, that's why Sacrifice
I can
is
also
vanished for that.
see. Well, I can also see this deck being not that bad against vampires, because while it's bad against the combo, this has to completely destroy any non-combo games out of vampires. I think we can agree there. So maybe it's actually okay against vampires, but it also will not be good against the deck that are good against vampires, like Blade Control or Bring to Light or whatever. I don't like this positioning, but then again, this kind of deck actually gets much better if you play it very, very well. Like if you get 100% out of it. I mean, we've seen with players like, Walkie or Labung or whatever, they just keep doing well with this deck, even though sometimes it's poorly positioned. This could be, I mean, without having played the matchup specifically, maybe the deck is better against the combo than I think it is, because of the, Mayhem Devil going infinite or whatever. But this doesn't seem very prepared against vampires specifically. Like you could play a different suite of interaction, I guess. Maybe it's just
Speaking
like
of
that.
Amalia,
Oh.
why do you guys think that Amalia is nowhere to be seen in this top 8?
Well, I mean, I think vampires with enough cyborg cards is actually beating Amalia. That's why.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not.
Well, look at the
much,
vampire deck. You'll see every single vampire deck plays like Knight of the Last Shadow, or whatever.
Yeah.
They also sometimes play
It's
like
also
Path of Peril on top, on cages. Every single vampire deck has a lot of cyber against Amalia.
It's also just
Okay.
like I don't know. It does get like a slight penalty of Magic Online, the same way
Yeah,
that
that is true.
Nadu does. Yeah.
I wanted to show you a deck that came in 16th place from Duke 12. It's a deck that's getting popular on Magic Online lately, and it's like big white with Yorion Sky Nomad. Only 4 creatures, and it's 4 copies of Beza the Bounding Spring. That's the big
Mhm.
time reinforcement we mentioned before. It's playing a lot of new cards actually. Carrot Cake, which is basically a what is it? Raise the alarm that also scries and gains some life.
It's
You
kind
can
of
blink
different.
it, I guess.
Well, this looks bad.
But yeah,
I don't like this is
But
bad in terms of like power level compared to the other decks in the format.
and it's playing a card I've never seen it before, so I want to read it for the listeners and viewers that are watching the YouTube channel. Card Taker's Talent, 2 in a white saga, or sorry, class. Whenever one or more tokens you control enters, draw a card. So it basically does
Once
nothing
per
when it comes into play. Then you pay 1 white, you make a token that's a copy of target token you control, and then on 4 tokens you control get +2/+2. It's weird. You just
Well,
It's a
yeah.
mono
the
white
thing
token deck,
where
right?
yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, go on.
Well, the thing where you said doesn't do anything when it comes into play isn't necessarily true, because if you do have an extra mana, you can immediately copy a token, so it does have immediate impact, right? Like, if you have 4 mana, it will copy a token, draw a card, and still be in play for the following turn, so it doesn't do nothing when it enters. It only does nothing if you're on turn 3. But go on. Sorry.
I mean,
that's
this
important.
deck seems like the type of deck that's actually playable only because it's organically good against vampires. Like it has a lot
Yeah.
of answers to the combo. Obviously, tokens are intrinsically good against mid-range decks, and Bessa plus cards like Sunfall or the Wandering Emperor or whatever can actually be the Reaper. But wow, like other than that, like if you play this against other decks, I mean, you need to have the right hate piece against every deck. Like you play against Phoenix, well, you play
Yes.
4 Hallowed Moonlights, so sure you're gonna get them sometimes, but like the ones they know what's going on, or they just go like for Galvanic Time Walks or whatever. Like I'm not sure how this deck behaves once the opponent can craft a plan. I can see this being fine for a weekend where no one knows, but this deck just like relies on having the right hit piece, and it's also like it's gonna have a lot of clunky draws, right? Like you have 3-mana enchantments and trying to snowball in Pioneer, which is this looks like a standard, the structure of a standard
almost,
deck.
It's literally like it literally looks a lot like one of the latest breakout standard decks. Like it's just the same deck, but they added like wedding announcement, right?
Well, also
different
Wandering
attractions.
Emperor, it's like
Yeah, but
a combination
it's
of
like-
good cards from other standards mostly. Like I don't think this is now a standard, but like it displays like Elspeth's Champion is actually a very good 6-drop, even in Pioneer. Like if you resolve it, but it's like this doesn't like it looks structurally weak. Now again, I will not fault anyone from trying this because these decks can actually be good but I don't think this is gonna be a top tier 1 of the deck at the start of the format or whatever.
Right. Yeah. When I say it's like a standard deck, it's not. It is partly about power level, but a lot of it is about how like what the deck is fundamentally trying to do is very standard. It's like you're trying to accumulate value, play really long games, and play like expensive spells, which is something that mostly only happens in standard, right? Like you're trying to grind out value. Caretaker's Talent Carrot Cake, like it's pretty good in standard, honestly, but like that's the only format where you get to do that sort of thing. I think every time you start,
Carrot looks bad.
Yeah, well, it is better than it looks. I'll say that. Like I did think the card was like horrendously unplayable, but it does work very well with Caretaker's Talent, so I'm willing to give a little bit of ground there. But yeah, it's definitely not a powerful card. That's for sure. It's hard to disagree with that. But
no, what I'm saying is,
like the fundamental plan is.
Do you think, Anthony? Maybe there. I mean, I would be surprised if there's not a single similar card in the whole Pioneer that's similar. Like I understand it does things with tokens, like it's a synergy piece or whatever, but it's kind of strange for it to be the best token card in the whole Pioneer. No, like
it is strange. Yeah. Like I genuinely believe that this was probably modeled off the standard deck, and that's why it's Carrot Cake. Like I have to assume that there is some relation that the deck broke out in standard, and then they tried to make a Pioneer version because it would line up well against vampires, as is naturally the case. Like you're just playing like a slightly bigger standard deck, which is often advantageous, right? But yeah, I mean, I don't know what
that's possible.
Maybe Carrot Cake is the best. I don't know, but I would agree with you that I assume there's something stronger in all of Pioneer, but maybe not. I don't know this.
Anyway, the thing I like the less about this deck is the sideboard. Like, I mean, I can see what the deck is trying to do, and I can see why it wins games, but why the sideboard? Like, I don't know.
They're really gunning for vampires. Look at that.
4 knockout blow. Well, the blows is like why? I don't know.
All right, guys.
That's.
I kind of want to try this deck now, though.
I mean, it is a kind of.
I really do. I think I will. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
All right. Let's move on to standard because again, that is the newest format we have, and on Magic Online it keeps on new things keep on happening. So let's dive
So
into
good.
it. Uh, First place of Friday Standard Challenge. It's according to the player who won, Blue, White, and Soul. Of course, the card and Soul artifact isn't legal in Standard, but you have Zoetic Glyph, which for 3 mana is an enchantment that turns an artifact into a 5/4 golem, and when this card dies, you discover 3. So it's like a 3 mana and Soul artifact that then discovers 3. It's obviously not a new card, but I just wanted to read out loud because it's not too commonly played, at least in formats I follow.
And because you like to read cards out loud, and we love to hear you reading cards out loud also.
Actually, I was using Fire Shoes thing, but I need to read these cards because I don't know them, so I need to hover them.
No, it's a good metric. Like if you need to read a card because you don't know what it does, then you read it aloud. I actually like this method. I mean, you've been doing it for a while, and I think it's good.
Sounds good to me.
Honestly, this deck has like no new cards except Mockingbird, so it's just
an important one though.
Once again, yeah, it's like similar to the blue-white deck. It's just that when Regal Unicorn came out in Standard, a bunch of people tried a similar strategy to this.
Well, this looks also to like that lives in the same space where this deck does not have that much room to improve, and this deck is good now maybe only because the other Standard decks are actually not well refined. But it seems like it's probably going to be the case with most Unicorn decks, right? And also like with pieces like this where decks need to be like well built to be able to have good sideboards, and you have to have like good plans against this type of strategy. Maybe Mockingbird though is good enough to do the thing, but probably not.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, a lot of it is that Zoetic Glyph is like actually like a very powerful card, and you do get to exploit some gaps in interaction with this deck. Like for example, like Steel Seraph is actually pretty hard to kill right now when everybody's playing Go for the Throat and Cut Down. Like that keeps happening every time someone plays Steel Seraph. It's the Droog interaction like this, and like this deck uses that very well. The Glyph is very powerful, but overall, I agree. Yeah, this deck kind of does rely on other decks not being as refined to be good, but I don't know. Like in that context, this deck is good right now. I think until people do figure stuff out. I think I'd say.
Yeah, there's another big white deck.
Pioneer deck.
We just talked about it a lot in Pioneer, and here we are, second place once again, 3 beds. This card feels like a must-have if you are a competitive player that needs to build decks. So
absolutely,
maybe I should buy some. I only bought one for Cube. I don't even know if it's good in Cube, but I always buy one-offs of everything that looks interesting.
Oh, I mean, it's great. I would 100% own 4 if I was planning playing Standard or Pioneer. But I think this deck originated from renowned deck builder Tullio Giardi. Is that how I say it? Tullio Giardi? Javier, is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he always builds big white. He always builds big white decks in every format. He built the one in Pioneer we just talked about.
I don't know. He brews a lot, right? And maybe a lot of those brews are big white decks, but by no means is that normally what he does. I think he just makes a lot of cool decks, and
they're good actually. They are usually well built. Yeah.
But this one is like really landed like even harder than this. Like a lot of the time, like he's the only one who's winning with his cool decks, and sometimes they do a little better than that. But this, I think, is one of his most successful decks that I've seen, and probably one of his best ones. I like it a lot. There's a lot that's good here. Also, a bunch of cards that you have to read. A bunch of the cards that I had to read, and I actively play Standard.
Yeah, this is actually this is a bunch of cards that I followed in Draft. So I remember Frontier Seeker for Draft, and also Fortune Loyal Steed, which is a very interesting card in Draft because you have works weird. Speaking of which, I'll be playing a lot of Draft as soon as the new set comes out. Because of the Magicom Vegas will have the sealed main event. Sorry, not main event. I guess it's like a side event of Worlds, but Worlds is, so few people that it's basically the main event of Vegas.
And you will top it the same way you did in Barcelona.
That was Vegas again. That was Vegas last year.
Don't you remember?
Yeah.
I think Mengu
top
it in Barcelona, didn't him? Or was Vegas?
No.
It was Vegas.
No? Vegas.
I don't remember at this point. Like, it was Vegas. Yeah, I remember.
Same tournament. Same tournament as this.
All the venues are truly the same.
So, yeah, it will be... So I'm excited I have done exactly 0 drafts of Bloombarrow, but I will be doing a lot of draft of Duskmorn. So... definitely excited for that. Anthony, is there any standard decks that you want us to highlight or talk about? Because we can't really go through all of them, just like we did in Modern and Pioneer.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just so much going on. I mean, it's very hard to cover everything, but because I think standard is really still developing like very, very well. Like there's decks like those blue
Oh,
white decks and that mono white deck that's relatively
yeah.
new. What were we saying?
Yeah, I guess we should mention the combo. So, for those who missed the podcast last week, Innkeeper's Talent plus Vraska Betrayal Sting kills. Apparently, a lot of people in the world didn't know, and I did a nice hashtag sponsored tweet. Did you guys see it?
Oh yes, yes,
So,
I remember now. Yes.
so yeah, LSV posted
Yeah,
about this
yeah,
combo,
yeah.
and the post got like 1,400 likes, and I answered. A lot of people in the replies said I didn't know about this combo. You should check out the Karnies podcast.
Oh, we did talk about
So
it, right? Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I
If
mean,
you're one of the
yeah.
never mind.
Yeah. The deck was like, I mean, people were playing like regular Golgari and then this, and it's kind of split between the two. But not everyone's playing this deck, and I think it is the most popular deck, or at least the one that I feel like I play against the most. Yeah, it's a good deck, but it's very interesting to see how differently people have built it, right? Like you see here that Misplaced Ginger has much less emphasis on the combo, but then you see other people playing the full 4 copies of each piece, and then all the cards around it also change a lot as well. Like how creature based you are, you see some people have very few. I remember Theo Jung was not playing so many creatures in his, but he had many more Lilianas, for example. So his deck was much more combo focused with removal and planeswalkers. So I don't know, it's really like it's a lot more open ended than it would seem, right? Because the cards are kind of good their own, which means that you're not really locked into playing specific other cards with them. So yeah, I still am trying to figure out what's what the best way to build this deck is, I guess. Um, yeah, the sideboards are pretty all over the place as well, still, but that's kind of also to be
And
expected given that we mentioned that the format still develops
yeah,
every week.
yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. Do you guys want to talk about something in particular, or are we good to go for this episode?
Yeah, I think we kind of ran out of time here, but yeah, we can delve a little more into standard next week, maybe, or if because there's these store championships that are happening, so people might care about that in particular. So I mean, I guess there's also going to be a lot to say about modern as well next week, so we'll figure it out.
Okay, yeah, there's definitely gonna be a lot to be said about modern because we'll have the ban list, and hopefully I will be qualified to the RC for next week. No, I don't know. All
Yes, you
right.
will.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone listening. Of course, you can support us at patreon.com/Karnies, and have a great rest of the week.
Thanks for listening,
Cheers.
everyone. Also, cheers.